will this increasing or the shortening or lengthening of our days get shorter and our years longer. As the earth moves away from the sun, it turns faster. It oblates, that is, it crushes down at its poles and lengthens at its equator. And it spins faster and faster at the equator, so that our 365 days for us now will be several hundred years in one turn around the planet. A year is measured as that length of time it takes for the planet to move around the sun. That is what a year is. Now, it takes Jupiter a great many more years. I gave you the figures one day, I think 200-300 years, and Saturn more, but Jupiter, although it's a vast, big planet, turns on its axis in 10 hours. The speed of rotation of our Earth's surface is 1,000 miles an hour. That's pretty fast, because we're only 8,000 miles in diameter. But you take a planet that's 80,000 miles in diameter, instead of 8,000, at 8,000 miles we're moving with this slow speed, but see how fast it'll be moving out here. And then again, the other planets must sweep out equal areas in equal time, so the years shorten as they get away because they've swept out, they're lower in potential, and they've swept out so much more area from here to here. There's so much more area in relation to the sun that it's like taking a section of a disc, and if you cut a disc here in a little V shape here and continue that way out here, you've got a vast amount of area compared with a small amount of area. So this, which has to move fast in its rotation around the sun here, moves slowly out there, because it covers a vast amount of area in the same length of time, so that this has to go very fast and this very slow to do the same thing. That is what is called the law of equal areas, so that planets move more slowly when they go out. We are moving around the sun at the rate of 17 miles a second. Out where Jupiter is, an automobile can keep up with it. I mean out where Pluto is, not where Jupiter is. But it slows it, yet at the same time it's sweeping out the same area and potential, exactly the same area, as though it moved 100 times as fast the closer around the sun. Do astronomers take into consideration the increasing powers of the heavenly bodies in their calculations and make it possible for them to predict things to the split second? They do not, because the time element is too short. In another 5,000 years, possibly, they will begin a new table, but not necessary for them to think of it for perhaps 5,000 years. Well, we have, since between the time of the Greeks and now, with all of these years, there has been such a slight variation in the relative position of Arcturus in the celestial sphere that it is hardly markable as a point. And yet Arcturus is moving at 75,000 miles a second. Now think of it, moving at 75,000 miles a second, and we're so far away from it that in 5,000 years this Earth cannot notice that movement and mark it upon its known charts for more than an inch of space. So astronomical figures are so vast that we do not have to change our calculations any too fast.
When you say ancient space, Doctor, what do you mean by ancient space?
Well, if you take your ruler and mark 1 inch on the celestial sphere,
Well, what size celestial sphere?
well, the celestial sphere is an imagined circle around the Earth 200 or 300 million miles out, that upon which we imagine that to be a map, and stars that are this side of it or the other side, doesn't make any difference, are projected to that point, so that so the astronomers have got to have something to figure
It's
upon.
like a planetarium, but they do the planetarium down here, but...
Well, if you take the dome of a planetarium, you see all the stars on that dome, don't you? Well, now, none of them are on that dome. Some are way beyond, and some may not be this side. But they're all projected to that plane, so that just as an architect must project everything on the flat surface so he can measure it. And so the astronomers have to have an imagined plane
And that one which they use for convenience is...
called the celestial sphere.
Yeah, 3 million miles...
I don't know how far it's away. I don't know. I just don't know. It's immaterial. At least it's a plane that is projected out upon space. Its distance, I think, is of no importance. It merely means that upon the surface of a sphere, all of its outlying stars are projected, and it could be a sphere as big as this. If you could get on the inside of it, it'd be just exactly the same thing. All of the stars everywhere would be projected and mapped and spotted. You put spots there wherever all the stars are, but they're not there.
I understand.
They're out here, but they're pictures of them. They're images. They're marked there in relation to each other. And so astronomers have got to have something upon which they can plan the positions of their stars, and they call it a celestial sphere, just as an architect calls his drawing board and plane.
Is that true it's moving across our field of vision or...
I don't know.
I'm
I'm sorry.
You don't know if it's sidewise or...
No, because there's 600 million of them in sight of this Earth, and I haven't time to find out whether one is going east and the other west. I don't think anybody else knows either. The movement is too slow for them to even find out, except over a period of thousands of years, but they have measured some. The planets have been measured, the positions of the planets have been measured on the celestial sphere century by century. But the stars have been very difficult to make such calculations on over thousands of years. Would it be possible to make available for the students a dictionary or a glossary of terms so that they might look up the meanings of some of the words you use? We're going to do just that. We're going to have a dictionary, a glossary of terms used, and I think we'll print it and then we'll print the next edition of the course. We'll print the terms in it, so that some will have something to refer to. Many people write books which they say are divine revelation from God, but you often say their own imaginations. How can we know the divine Iliad and your other works are not the prediction of your own imaginings? How can we be sure they are the Word of God for us now? They are my own imaginings. Yes, they are. But my imagination and things are God's imaginings, Because my mind and God's are one. And when I become aware of that, and I write down through me, my imaginings, I'm writing down God's imaginings. Would you see? There's only one mind. And when the mind becomes wholly mind, and becomes aware of itself as mind, it writes down its meanings and its imaginings as one. So God is working through you, with you, and you and God are one in your imaginings. Whether you're creating a monument or an epic poem, to the extent in which you have an awareness of God working with you with that, your imaginings, which as the divine mind and God's imaginings as divine mind are one. Of course they are. When you go out and walk and talk with God, you're talking with yourself. Because yourself is God. And that's what it means when all questions are answered in the light. Thou art light, thou canst answer them. When one is aware of his divinity, he is divine. But what I have been talking about are the people who write down the things of their imaginings and then think that they're separate and apart from all of the universe, but that they're occult and favored above all other people because some ascended master, some imaginary dead person who has been resurrected and can go and sit on a cloud and communicate with you. And then they write about these things that are coming through from the other side. The other side doesn't mean God ever. It means some ascended masters in the occult world. The occult world. I'd like to drown that occult world. It has no existence.
In other words, you recognize and appreciate and treasure the illumination experience in each I can write in each individual to the degree that it is valid.
To the degree that everyone is having a cosmic conscious experience every second of his life.
Sure.
Bit by bit it's unfolding. The moment that you feel inspiration of any kind whatsoever, that directs your mind inward toward your mind instead of outward through your senses, that moment you're having a divine revelation. It's the inner voice trying to speak to you. Why don't you listen? Why doesn't the world listen? Why does it throw it away? Incredible to me. But they do. The world throws it away. The greatest treasure in the world. The only treasure. The greatest thing that can happen to anybody. Thrown away. Buy a ticket to Coney Island instead. Well, that's what the senses do to man. But the spiritual voice is whispering, whispering, whispering inside all the time. Listen to me. People don't listen. What do you mean by an inner gas? Are there any other kinds? Oh, no, I can't go into that. That if some student must have asked this that has come in late, and I'm afraid you'll have to get that from the course, but in putting it in just a word, the seed of an oak tree is not the oak tree. Yet the oak tree unfolds from the seed. The seed of an oak tree is an inner gas. It's the desire pattern, the spiritual desire pattern surrounding a point in space from which desire is to extend to create bodies.